And welcome back to the EMEA Masters. I'm Medic. Joining me with a huge smile on his face is Broxer. How are you doing, my dude?
I'm doing great. I've been patiently waiting for this moment, getting to cast alongside you in particular. As we all know, I'm a big fan of you, so I'm honored to be here.
Already begun.
I will
We've
try
been
my best to
casting
be
for
a good
10 seconds.
apprentice.
Come on. At some point, you have to get rid of the act, Mads. At some point, you have to accept I'm not the best Rakan in the world. That perhaps people like Hillasang have me beaten.
I swear, some team has to log in Rakan. I don't care if it's this game or one of the next ones, but when it happens, I'll be so excited with the best Rakan in the world by my side.
I'm looking forward to it. We're already jumping straight into the draft, thankfully, because it means that I have less time to downplay how much you were going to praise me. SK Prime on the blue side lost to Team Go earlier on today. Riddle obviously took a win over Anothosis Famagusta, so let's see if they can, if SK can finally pick up a win for themselves, or if Riddle can continue their winning ways. LeBlanc and Lee Sin banned away. There's the Kalista and the Vi removed already. We are on 13.6, so a few nerfs here and there, but kind of the same meta as in LEC so far.
But with that being said, there's some surprises happening. We're seeing some target bans in the Kalista, the Lee Sin. Lee Sin is not something a lot of pro teams are prioritizing at the moment, at least when Vi, Sejuani, and Wukong are up. But Windows 7 on Riddle's side is unfortunately so good at Lee Sin that it's being banned away from him and we don't get to see it now. We see the Sejuani and Vi banned on the other side, meaning that something like Wukong all of a sudden is big priority in the jungle role. But we'll see what happens. Speaking of Rakan, by the way, Medic.
Oh, okay.
I love it. It's beautiful.
Prime is gonna have the Rakan locked in here for SK Prime. Prime on SK Prime will have the Rakan. There's the Xayah and the Wukong, though, as you say, for Riddle. No real surprises so far. I was a little shocked that SK decided to prioritize the Rakan over the Xayah. I think Xayah is a very strong part of that matchup. It was, of course, slightly nerfed on 13.6.
Curious to see what the jungle response is going to be to the Wukong here. It could be a bunch of different things, really, because so many junglers are off the table now. Zeri makes a lot of sense, first of all. They should be picking that jungle response at this point. Lurox has been playing a bunch of different things, including Gragas. Well, I was just about to name him. There it is. That's going to be the jungler. Great.
Hey, you're just great at predicting these things. Look at that. You got there just before it was locked in as well, so we can give you your little analyst badge for that one. Nautilus locked in for Riddle. The Jace now getting banned away. So what have we got? We've got jungle and bot side on either side of the rift here, Mads. If you're looking at these compositions, is there any way you think that the mid lane and the top lane is likely to sway?
Well, first of all, I was actually a little bit surprised seeing the Jace being banned away from Riddle, because I was thinking Jace could be a really strong pick on 4 for them, and then, you know, saving it for last pick, the champion can go both mid and top. But I think overall, both of the teams are pretty well-rounded team comps now, with good team fighting, good engage, we have good scaling, and now we just need to round up the team comps, really. And for the mid laners in particular, these guys have both played an insane amount of champions. I think they're both close to like 15 champions played so far the split. Typical mid laners just playing everything, really. What I think we can expect from Riddle, though, is a blind pick top. They've already set it up with Jace and Olaf being banned away. Something we've seen a lot so far has been the likes of Cassandra, Sion, maybe a Nav or Malphite, just pretty safe blind picks that, you know, can be fine no matter what they go up against.
Yeah, Banderas played Ornn earlier today as well, so if you did want to just go for, you know, a tank utility with a bit of engage potential, you could go towards that. I think the Nav is a little bit safer, as you say. Riddle, though, might look towards the Ahri. Nope. As I say that, they're going to switch across towards the Sion. Safe tank in the top lane, can be harassed down a little bit, but when your health bar is as big as the Eiffel Tower, it doesn't really matter if you're losing, you know, a couple of stories off the top of it. You're still pretty safe up towards that top lane. SK Prime now don't need to look towards how they're going to deal with that Sion, and also towards the mid lane. Obviously, the Gragas could still be a flex. We could see Lurox bring something a little bit wacky out in the jungle, but expectations are that Gragas is... Oh, wow, it's actually locked. Okay, I'm a genius. What
that's really spicy. The jungle expert
spicy from Lurox.
I like that so much. I think it's kind of crazy pulling out a Kindred into that team comp, but it does work pretty well because they have so much engaged. It's just the 1v1 in particular versus Wukong can be a little wonky early on, so he has to be pretty mindful. But SK Gaming should be coming in with some good team play. They're a solid team, and I expect them to set up the jungler for success. We see the Ahri being picked for FEBIVEN. Makes a lot of sense. It's his third most played champion so far, the split, and a champion that is just a stable blind pick, really.
Yeah, well, it should work out for him. There's the Sylas. We see it locked in right at the end. I was just having a quick look at Lurox's all-time Kindred stats. 3 wins, 1 loss. Played it 3 times last year. Played it once in the LEC when he was on Schalke in 2020 summer. But he did lose that game, went 0-3. So hopefully more of an ERL level performance for Lurox than an LEC level performance here on the Kindred. But I'm sure like we're going to talk a lot about how these junglers match up into each other when we get into the game, because having watched your stream, one thing I know that you love doing is talking about jungle pathing and seeing how these two people can interact with each other and interact with their lanes as the game goes on.
Oh, for sure. I am looking forward to that. But I'm also looking forward to getting you to talk about Rakan in a little bit, sharing your wisdom on this particular champion. In a pretty
okay, here we go. Do you want all of the wisdom? I'll give you all of it, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to hold the mic. Rakan used to be really bad in lane. He's still really bad in lane, but they buffed his Q healing. So now you can be really bad, but regain all the health you've lost. Isn't that amazing? Against Nautilus, you need to be careful that when you go in, you want to position yourself just a little bit further away from the Nautilus than you would from another melee support. Because if you get auto-attacked by the Nautilus, you're then rooted, and that can really ruin your day. So just catch him with the tip of the W. Don't go all in with the W. Just try to get him right on the edge, and then you can dance away. There we are. That's the matchup. Kibah has already apparently bought himself a Radiant Virtue. That's not true, but we can pretend that we didn't see that as we get on into the game. Anyway, that's all you need to know about Rakan in this matchup. Don't give Sylas your ult, not that you have any control over that. And most of the time you're looking as a secondary engage, because what will happen is either Gragas will find a pick or Ahri will find a pick, and then you'll follow up on that pick rather than being primary engage. At least that's what should happen if you're playing Rakan. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed, because you're very easy to get away from now that you can't, you know, Alt W or, you know, the old school Alt Flash. It's very hard.
That sounds really smart. Like, honestly,
what can I say?
Like, what an honor sitting here listening to the God Rakan himself talk, teach us about this matchup. I, again, am honored to be in your presence, Minnie. But now, let's see how this
Tell me about the junglers.
We can see Lurox.
Tell me about
moving.
the junglers, Boxer.
We can see Lurox moving.
If you were in Worlds Finals, what would you do as a jungler here, Boxer? Huh?
Apparently, you would go 0-3 and make it a quick one. Oh, never mind. Actually,
no.
I shouldn't be saying that.
It's fine. There's no LPL junglers in this match. No.
Can we scratch that? Like, edit that out, please. Anyways, we see Lurox starting on his red buff, soloing. Nowadays, junglers rarely get a leash because they don't really need it. It makes a lot of sense for Kindred to start on red buff on her own. Wukong is starting on Raptors because junglers that can clear Raptors efficiently generally prefer starting that. And I think to begin with, we can expect just a red side jungle clear from both of these two junglers. Maybe some action coming out around the first Mark spawn, which is going to be on the first crab in a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Sometimes when Kindred is in the game, we are seeing some spicy jungle path and a lot of flexibility surrounding matching the enemy jungler, so you know that you can win the crab fight and get the first mark. But it's really up to Lurox to see how he wants to approach the scenario. It looks like he's just going to be going the safe route, pathing towards the top side, which makes sense because his bot lane is getting pushed in on the turret and he has no way of doing anything proactive.
We'll see if he wins the coin flip on the mark. Could, of course, go up towards that top side. When you get 4 marks as Kindred, your attack range increases by 75 at the first 4 marks. Then every 3 marks after that, I think it's 25 more. So you can actually be a long-range powerhouse as the game goes on. But it really depends on whether or not you can apply your marks to targets you're about to kill, or whether or not the marks fall on good environmental camps for you to take. Did see a couple of people in chat saying, is Winter 7 Johan? Yes, he is. Used to play for, it was Hanwha Life last year, I believe, right? Johan? Check. Yeah, Hanwha Life last year, or 2 years ago in the LCK. So has quite a bit of experience at the sort of highest level here. Obviously at the new echelon, the new peak of his career, playing in the EMEA Masters. Was it top side scuttle? It is. Mark on top side scuttle.
I just have to mention that Lurox is really good at flipping coins because the market did spawn on the top scuttle, and now that's a very happy Kindred we see on our screen. Also like the fact that he went for the green jungle item, by the way. Often we see, you know, proactive, aggressive junglers like Kindred go for the blue jungle item to get the extra move speed, but there's so much CC on Riddle's side that tenacity can come in really handy later in team fights.
He really can.
Do you win? Yeah, go ahead.
No.
What I was going to say is that Lurox expected Winter 7 to start on Raptors, decided to go for them, knowing he wouldn't be there in time, and just gets a quick and easy advantage here. Now he's looking for the game though.
Looking towards that mid lane, FireRain might be caught out here, does still have the flash, tries to dash, Lurox still on the chase, flash forward, Lurox one more auto would be enough. He manages to get him, Lurox tanks 2 tower shots, but not quite enough damage to kill him off. SK Prime on the board, and Riddle 0-1 behind.
And this is a little bit tricky for Riddle to expect, because often the enemy jungler would already have based at that point, and they probably called, "Don't worry, Kindred is doing her crocs right now," when in reality Lurox had other plans. And like you said, the man has been a monster on Kindred in the ERLs, and once again the confidence.
Oh, Chanax!
Oh.
Yeah, I like the preemptive flash from Banderas. I think Chanax could have flashed away and then not been hit with the Roar of the Slayer, or Soul Furnace, I think that W is called. But in the end, Banderas able to get Riddle back in contention here. Still a slight gold lead though, Boxer for SK. About 700 gold ahead from the early extra camp and the first blood kill in that mid lane. We'll have another look up towards this top lane.
Oh, GNX being a little bit over aggressive there, wanting to body slam in melee range on the turret for some reason, taking a couple of tower shots, and Banderas is getting, well, probably the easiest kill of his life. That was an oopsie from the SK top lane, again getting a little over eager. Now we see Lurox being in the river, taking control of the dragon. Generally, as a jungler, it's really good if you can look to start this dragon before minute 7 or so, because if you can get Drake off the map before the timing, you can then start focusing on Herald, which is going to spawn at minute 8. So with the winning mid and jungle duel, with Lurox having Noon Quiver on his first phase, which is going to give him a huge increased amount of damage to jungle camps, they get an easy dragon. His red is spawning, he can move to that, slowly start making his way towards the Herald, and make sure that is the next objective that they play for.
Yeah, it's just really nice for SK to be able to use their pushing lanes and the prio that they have to work their way around the map. You can actually see Lurox realizes that his marker spawned on this topside scuttle. Winter does have the smite though, so should be able to take this one right under Lurox's nose. Takes it away, even with the early smite, and now Lurox a little bit saddened. Only has 1 mark so far, spotted on a ward as well as he walks up. Might go for these Razor Beaks, might not. It looks like FEBIVEN doesn't really think he's healthy enough to protect Lurox if a fight did begin, as the fight does happen in the bottom lane. Keduii getting caught out here by Jinjo and Kibah. Keduii does have Prime coming around the side, flashes forward, looking at the damage onto Jinjo. The Ignite ticking will be enough to kill off the AD carry, and Kibah's going to fall as well. 2 kills over to the SK Prime bot lane.
I was going to say that what Lurox did actually disappointed me quite a bit, because he could just have done red buff, full clear towards top. He should have expected not to get the top grab anyways. But now I don't have to say that, because Lurox was showing on the top side, he gave the enemy bot lane falls confidence. They see the, you know, the Kindred being so far away, decide to go for the all-in on the turret. Keduii just does such a good job hiding away. Jinjo just simply cannot reach him to kill him. And what we see here from Riddle, to me, looks like a little bit of desperation, getting a little over-eager. While they were aware of Kindred's position, they thought Rakan was so far away, and it was, in reality, very easy for him to make it back to bot lane and secure a double kill.
And even if Rakan was quite far away, you didn't have your level 6s. You couldn't really put the feathers in a position where dragging them back would be that easy. So it definitely felt a little bit desperate from Riddle, maybe looking for their second win here in the group stage, trying to match up with Go at the top. FEBIVEN coming across here as SK Prime start to set up around this Rift Hold that was already started by Riddle. Janex can come down. Banderas has used the ultimate to get back into the lane, and so it's going to be a 4v4 fight, not back with the explosive cast. The hook's coming out as well. FEBIVEN dashing away with the Spirit Rush. Feather Storm from the side as well. FEBIVEN goes back up towards the top side, while Prime is getting chased down towards the bottom side. Lurox coming in as well. Keduii's going to join the fray. Prime uses the blast gun to get away. Lurox splashes over the wall, but Jinjo's going to follow him up. And Winter7 looking for a bit more damage. Jinjo takes one. The Rift Hold falls, as well as Banderas is able to secure it. And in the end, Riddle really get everything they were looking for.
And I think, to an extent, SK were actually in control at the start of the fight, but they ended up splitting up instead of staying as a unit. FEBIVEN moved to top side. We had, you know, the Kindred, the Rakan sitting on bot side, getting engaged on, and now Janex once again on the Gragas, getting a little too excited up in the top lane. But ultimately, in that fight, to me, it was all about team play, being, you know, just standing together as a team really instead of splitting up. And if they play as a unit next time, it's going to be a very different fight. For now though, solid play by Riddle. The top lane, the Sion, starting to be a real threat for them.
Knock up though, down towards this bottom lane. Jinjo, no ultimate on him. Keduii's going to take out the kill. Lurox looking for a little bit more as Kibah now stuck underneath this tower. Not an easy situation for the Nautilus to navigate, but he puts on his dancing shoes, dodges around, and Lurox decides to back away, not knowing where the enemy jungle was. And seeing that FireRain could move out of the mid lane first means that they do just back away. No need to force the tempo too much down towards this bottom lane, Boxer.
Yeah, you could see that Lurox was really tempted to walk towards the enemy grump because there was a mark on it, and us Kindred players, we love getting our marks that great, but he decided to play it safe, and I think that was the correct choice, because often in League, once you use up all your tempo, your power to make one play, if you go for a second one, it's rarely the right decision. Just take the small victory, get tempo, get a reset off on bot lane, and soon Dragon is coming up in 40 seconds, and that's going to be the next big objective that SK has to be ready for.
Yeah, they want to set up around it. It will be their second Dragon of the game, an Ocean for them. Interestingly, Lurox still only on one stack on this Kindred. Has been a little bit unlucky. I think it's been a couple of Scuttle Crabs it spawned on. Also, even though he's got 2 kills, he hasn't been able to get any stacks out of it. You can actually see his stacks because we're using the LEC HUD. If you look just underneath his player name on the player portrait on the left side, there's a little 1, and that shows exactly how many stacks he's got. Now, you can't see it because it shows us he's built a Kraken Slayer. But in a second, you'll be able to see it. Just like you can see Banderas' stacks on the Sion, or that extra health he is gaining. Dragon, though, started here, Boxer, by Riddle. Winter7 is going to kick it off. And it actually looks like Lurox deciding stacks are more important than snacks with the Dragon. He will go up towards these Razorbeaks and try and steal them away. Banderas here as well. Lurox is going to jump in onto him, but Banderas does still have the flash and should just be able to dash his way away from this one. Spirit Rush forward, though. Banderas in the end does have to utilize that flash to get away, and Lurox will eventually steal away these Razorbeaks.
And the real problem around the Dragon was not that SK wouldn't be able to contest, because in reality it should have been their Dragon, their 2k gold up on their opponents, but Lurox based so late that they were not able to set any control around it. Generally, as a rule of thumb, you want to be in the Dragon area at least a minute before it spawns so you can get vision. Riddle followed that rule of thumb to perfection. Banderas and the Sion even moved out early with his top prio, and you know, SK just realized they couldn't contest, and with that macro mistake in mind, I think they made the right decision, just pushing out Banderas and at the very least getting the Raptors and another mark for Kindred.
Wait, Roxa, I've watched you play solo queue. I was pretty sure if you pinged it and your team has all agreed on the objective vote that you should go for the dragon, you're then not allowed to change your mind. And people will get angry and question mark ping you if you decide that on new information you should back away. I don't think I've ever heard of this idea of realizing that the situation's changed and thus changing your idea.
I think the only problem with what you're saying is that I'm a jungle main, and no matter what I do in solo queue, I'm gonna get spam pinged by everyone. And I never really know it's because an objective is spawning or if it's because my mid laner got solo killed on Yasuo and convinced himself it's my fault. But the truth is, people probably ping that jungler for many different reasons in solo queue, including this one. Luckily, I didn't see any spam pings on Lurox, so he has nicer teammates than I do. Good for him.
Or like they have voice chat, so.
Oh no! Don't say that.
This is why we should never have voice chat in League of Legends.
True. Poor guy. Actually, now that I think about it, no.
I doubt that's true. SK Prime in a good position right now, and obviously, even though they lost their first game to Team Go, should still be one of the favorites to make it out of this group. Riddle, though, the #1 seed from the NLC, trying to stand in their path right now. And let's talk a little bit about how these teams develop throughout the rest of the game, Mats. Because if you look at it right now, SK do have this small gold lead. It's a dragon apiece. Is about 2,000 gold for SK Prime in the lead. But is there a compositionally? Do you think there's a difference between how these teams want to play out later on in the game?
I think in a lot of ways the two teams are pretty similar in the sense that there's not any split pushers. We have two fairly tanky champs in the top lane who just want to group, look for engages. You have Gragas and Sion, you have Rakan, you have Nautilus. In a lot of ways, just traditional comps in League of Legends that want to set up around the objectives and where it's going to be all about securing Dragon, securing the Baron. And now we can see the next Dragon is coming up in 2 minutes, so we're going to have to see if SK can actually set up for that in time. They are in time for Herald, so that's a good step in the right direction. I do like the Kindred pick a lot though. The Kindred pick makes so much sense here into what Riddle has to offer, and they're gonna have to be very aware of the Kindred ult because their entire comp is just hard engaged, with Xayah being the one exception, right? They're gonna jump right in and try to burst their opponents, and if Lurox lands a clean Kindred ult, he can single-handedly turn fights around.
Yeah, but then FireRain can do it in the opposite direction. You have Lamb's Respite and Lamb's Respite 2 Electric Boogaloo coming out from FireRain. We'll see if he ever decides to steal away the Kindred ult. Currently, Lurox has marked Wukong for death, but SK look much more like they're playing cinema League of Legends than anything else here. Just sitting, eating their popcorn, drinking their diet sodas and watching as Riddle secure the Baron. Get out. They lose a tower for it as Keduii wasn't with his team and was able to push in mid, but overall the neutral objective at least goes over to Riddle.
And despite that, if you're on SK Gaming, you're kind of living the dream here, because sure, you had to give up the Herald, but you got a free mid tier one. Lurox is now able to deny, hopefully for him, 2 caps from the enemy team, and he's still on the blue buff. And the only thing that's a little iffy about this entire scenario is that we're seeing both FEBIVEN and Keduii base really late. I was kind of hoping that SK would use this opportunity to get vision around the dragon area, but the bases are coming in so late that once again they're gonna have to re-enter and see if they can regain the control from Riddle. If they had used the mid prio and giving up Herald to get Drake, I would be happy. Now, you know, we'll see what they can do, but if they lose this fight, oh, I'll be a little disappointed from a macro point of view.
I'm sure they'll be a little disappointed as well. Currently, Riddle have control of the river. Ward goes down. Prime dodges away with the grand entrance there on the Rakan. The coward alarm comes out as Banderas just slides between them all. His best Puss in Boots impression there is our good Antonio on the Sion. FireRain caught up towards the top side. Flashes, dashes across the wall. The quickness as well, a possibility for him as they try and dive onto FEBIVEN. Spirit rushed in all on his lonesome, and already he's fallen, and now SK Prime have to try and fight a 4v5. The Cyclone coming out as well from Winter 7. Can just dash back in here. Has the smite. Flash forward. There's the hook, but only lands onto Genex. 2,500 HP on the Dragon now. Kibah's going to fall. Prime goes in with a double charm, double knockout. And that's exactly what he was looking for. Winter will fall. Jinjo trying to dive back towards the backside. The feathers fly. But Keduii forces him back to the fountain. Only Banderas left alive. And SK Prime, even though they lost FEBIVEN at the start of the fight, find everything else that they were looking for here. An ace over to SK Prime. The Dragon to boot. Jenna is getting chased down by Banderas. We'll just dash away. And Riddle now with a commanding position in this game, Boxer.
And it is now confirmed. I am not the only medic fan in here, because with that Rakan engage, it was pretty clear that Prime has been sitting on your stream, watching and learning quite a bit. Obviously, first and foremost, FEBIVEN makes a big mistake. Again, I said it earlier, they need to play as a team, they need to play as a unit. He was too split, he got hard engaged on. We see the Nautilus failing his engage, basically just going all in with the Gragas, but then Prime on the Rakan comes in, finds a beautiful angle, and it's just so easy for the rest of SK to follow up. I think initially could start by Riddle, but once the Nautilus engage goes south, it's a really tricky situation for them to get out of, and SK is ready to pounce and take advantage of it.
It's also the problem, and it's a Zeri issue. She is nerfed on 13.7, so hopefully she's a little bit weaker when we come into MSI, but if you don't CC her and kill her at the start of a fight, or if you don't have the threat of CC, she just walks all over you in all of these fights. Assuming she gets ultimate on one person so she can start getting up the lightning rush stacks or lightning crash stacks, it just becomes so difficult to ever deal with her, because you need point and click CC. You need Nautilus ult, or you need Sylas to be able to E onto her, or Wukong with the Cyclone. Otherwise, she just walks through you, and that's exactly what happened. All credit to Keduii, playing it very well, of course, but it's just a Zeri diff as Kibah looked for something there, couldn't quite find the dredge line, as Keduii gets his 5th kill of the game now on Zeri. And it looks like SK Prime are becoming a bit of an unstoppable force here, Boxer.
At this point, it's going to be very difficult for Riddle to fight back. Not only are they 5.5k gold down, but SK are in full control of the map. They're going to crack the final tier 1 here. If we compare the items of the 280 carries and the gold, we can see that Zeri is 3,000 gold up. And at this point, it's gonna be all about that Zeri, all about the 80 carry, and whether or not SK Gaming can peel for Keduii and set him up for success. If they can, he's gonna be a terror on fights, and he's gonna take down anyone standing in front of him, including what would otherwise be a very tanky Sion. At this point, we can see there's 3 minutes for the next Dragon, so it's not anything the teams are gonna worry about. We're gonna be seeing Riddle playing the defense. They're gonna have to set up defensive vision and try to kind of hold a defensive line around their tier 2 turrets. We're 20 minutes in, not a single tier 2 has dropped yet, so for now they've been doing a pretty good job, but it's gonna be a difficult one for them. And so far I like what they're doing, just setting up a bunch of vision around the Baron area in topside. Of course, SK Gaming could be looking to start the Baron at some point, but they should never do that unless they've cleared out all the vision, and this is exactly what I'm expecting Lurox and Prime to do now, grouping up as the mid laner and the jungler. Them being a little deeper in enemy jungle should give FEBIVEN the opportunity to push out top. Keduii has pushed mid and is able to join, and now, even though Banderas is there on the Sion, there's not really anything they can do, because he's gonna have to base and answer with bot lane.
It becomes very tricky for Riddle to really play around this sort of situation as well, because you have to match bot pressure, so that means Banderas needs to go down there, or FireRain, because he's got the TP, so he might try and match the Gragas down towards that bottom side. But then in the 4v4, you don't really win out, so how do you ever regain control of your jungle? How do you ever regain control of your camps? Well, the answer is you don't. You lose your blue buff to Lurox, who's going to get his 5th sack of the game. You're going to lose all of the other camps to anyone from SK that really wants to step in and take them away, and you can actually see like littered 2 control wards, 3 normal wards up towards this red side jungle for Riddle, just to try and get some semblance of vision on the map. But in all actuality, all that vision does is say, okay, yeah, you can walk into your own jungle now. Whereas SK Prime's vision is all placed much deeper in and allows them to set up plays like this where they know no one's coming to help FireRain right now. Everyone else is still in the river. FireRain dies because he doesn't have that aggressive vision line. And Riddle now a man down for the next 37 seconds.
And for Riddle at this point, like you said, they're going to slowly lose if they don't find a way to make a play. But the problem is now, because they're already so far behind, it has to be the right one. If they keep sitting back defensively, they're just going to slowly lose all their jungle camps, all objectives. But at one point, SK are going to push up, they're going to look for tier 2s or Baron. And if Riddle at that point can then find a good flank, find a good engage, maybe create a number advantage by having either FireRain or Banderas drop a wave and catch the opponents off guard, then there's potential. But it's so nerve-wracking and so risky being in that position, because with them already being 7k down, they're gonna get one try, one big team play, and if that one play goes wrong, there's no way back.
I just know if this was solo queue, you'd be all over that positive mental right now, wouldn't you, Boxer? Hey guys, we can win. We just need one big play. It's winnable. It's easy. You've had 4 surrender votes so far. None of them have gone through. But this is your moment. You have to set up around the Baron, I guess. That's what Riddle are going to try and do. Winter there alongside Kibah and Jinjo, just trying to get vision control. Banderas does have his TP back, and Riddle do have the vision control right now. And there is always that risk of when you are quite far ahead in the game, you overstep because you're overly confident, right? So instead of Prime working with Lurox to make sure they step in together and deny the vision after getting mid lane prio, sometimes you'll just see a support go a little bit too far by themselves. Here, SK Prime aren't doing that. They're slowly working up together. There is one deep flank ward they've missed around their blue buff, but as a unit, they're pushing in and making sure that they're denying this vision, which is good, solid macro play around objectives from SK.
They are playing very slow, very methodical. Almost reminds me of, watching League back in Season 6, Season 7, where we were watching Korean teams just slowly taking down everything the enemy team has. And now, Riddle might be looking aggressively for the opportunity. Unfortunately for them, they're gonna have to run for their lives because it's not the right one. They don't have any real advantage. And while this is happening, FEBIVEN is pushing out all the way bots. If no one decides to respond bot lane soon, he's gonna take the turret. Who can respond? Well, maybe it's gonna be FireRain on the Sylas, but he's gonna have to run all the way from base, and by the time he makes it a bot, that turret is already gone.
Tower falls. It is the 4th of the game for SK Gaming Prime. And with an 8,000 gold lead now, Boxer. Very, very tricky for Riddle. Kibah's going to try and step forward here. Lurox and Genax can just both jump into the pit. Lurox, whoa! Did he make a mistake with his Q there or something? It feels weird that he had to burn his flash. Maybe his Q was a bit short.
There's no way he would flash if he didn't miss his Q. That must have been a little,
he must have
oopsie that we didn't really catch on camera. But ultimately, I love what Riddle is doing here. They're having the right idea. They're trying as well as they can to protect up top side, to keep having vision around the Baron area, because they need to make sure that if SK Gaming starts Baron at any point, they're there and they're ready. So in the worst case, if not fight, then at the very least go for a steal.
Oh, Winter. Oh, Winter. That's a Zeri. You just can't do that, my dude. Prime gets hooked underneath the tower as well, but Lurox and Genax very happily pick up the kill. Keduii there as well goes godlike. And yeah, you can like what Riddle's doing, but in the end, SK just slap him with their wallets. That's a few dollar bills in the face. And it sends Riddle to an early grave.
But that is certainly one way of putting it. We've been trying our best to be positive and find the openings for Riddle, but the truth is, the openings just haven't been there. SK Gaming have not really made any mistakes that were punishable, and ultimately, look at that little Zeri, look at the sneakiness. He's just sitting, lingering, waiting around the corner. The unseen AD carry comes out, Winter tries to come in to save his AD carry, and then the entire squad appears out of nowhere. Look at the solo lanes on the minimap. Sion, Sylas, they are absolutely nowhere to be found on the map. And this is a bit of a tricky one, because you can't even say that Riddle were over aggressive. Like Xayah was standing as far back as he possibly could, trying to get her Ramsey camp. But at this point in the game, against the sneaky Zeri who's already so fed, apparently that was very, very illegal.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're being aggressive in any way, right? There's no over aggressive anymore. You can either be in your base or be fodder for SK Prime because they have total control over the entirety of the map. Baron secured for them as well. Still 2 minutes on that Baron buff. Banderas trying to do what he can here, but Lurox and Janax in the right position to shut down this Sion. Timber goes the Lumberjack, and another kill over to Lurox. His 6th stack, still needs 1 more to make it to 7. But the game may end before he even manages to get there. With the mid lane inhibitor down, you can see Keduii trying to push up here. This is something you can do. Try and set up. Keduii hit the control ward, so doesn't realize that Winter's in there. Okay, maybe you can't do that. I thought maybe Winter had a chance to Cyclone or something, but it seems like Keduii might just be a little bit too strong. 3 levels up as the AD carry over the enemy jungler.
Well, he doesn't have any summoners available at the moment, and Riddle are gonna have to find a way to engage in that Zeri, or the game is about to end.
I feel like the game might just be about to end, though, Boxer. Even if you... Okay, yeah, 4,
But the
no
Sion,
one's
though,
alive anymore. Sion's up!
There's a Sion on the way.
Oh,
It's
here he
time to
goes.
shine. Look at him go.
Come on, yes!
No, not top lane. Not top
There
lane.
were minions! There were minions to be had, Boxer! But SK in a convincing game here. 29 minutes.
1v5. It's a
For
good
the win.
win, I promise.
He's not the bounce, man. He can't do it. There's no Prowler's Claw on this guy. SK will open up their win column here at the EMEA Masters with a convincing victory over Riddle. Get in there. It will work, I promise you.
That was a very, very dominant and impressive performance from SK Gaming. I think starting already from draft, I loved everything they did with obviously Zeri and Rakan were doing amazing, which is one thing, but taking Kindred so late into the draft, into so much engage, the Sion, the Nautilus, the Wukong, everything just made so much sense. You could see clearly what plan they were coming into the game with, and they just played smart and methodical, played by the book, and gave their opponents no chance to play League of Legends.
Yeah, they really didn't. And we're actually going to hear from one of the Riddle players to see just how difficult it was to win that game. I think Banderas is standing by, or sitting by. Hey, Banderas. How are you doing, my dude? That was not an easy game to play.
I mean, yeah, it was for sure not easy to play. We kind of got manhandled. I mean, it happens, I guess. It wasn't really a draft issue. We just didn't have the best game, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens. Could you... I don't want you to have to reminisce too much about, a tough game, but is there a moment or a key fight that you can identify that really snowballed the game away from you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the 2v2 in bot, like the moment Zeri starts propelling, it's kind of over for us with this draft. So like what couldn't happen happened, but we just kept our heads high and tried to out macro them, but they closed it up pretty cleanly. So yeah, the result ended like it did.
So I know that when you are preparing for a big tournament like EMEA Masters, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of things going on. It's a little different than playing in the NLC. I was wondering, do you approach EMEA Masters any different than NLC in how you prepare for games? And is there like any particular strategy or area that you're like really working on at the moment to, reach the next level?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think the difference is in NLC where we're kind of like the top dog, but we come in here as like more of the underdogs. So we approach it with more of there's no risk. We can just play like our game and it should be fine, I think we have a lot of different playstyles that we can utilize. I think this one that we played now is like not really our best, but I'm personally like more of a strong side player. Of course, I'm able to play every playstyle, but I would like to show off that as well in the future. Especially when there's nothing to do. Right?
Yeah. You managed to pick up a win against Anorthosis Famagusta earlier today, and now like you know, Team Go seem to be kind of the top of the group. Obviously, with it being a double round robin, there's still a lot of time for everything to develop. But how are you feeling about your general position in this group? How are you feeling about your likelihood of making it through to the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can take a game of everyone in this. Like, I think we can win the whole thing if we play as good as we can, right? So we still, our heads are up high. I mean, we're professionals and then, so we just need to focus and do what we can. I think everyone's pretty motivated. This game is like, I think Go is the best in the league, like in our group, for sure. But besides, like, anyone can take a game of anyone, right? So we'll see what happens. Maybe we take a game of them and it's equaled, right? But we'll see what happens. I think next time versus SK will show a better showing though, for sure. And I think we'll make it to quarter still.
Well, good luck on the rest of the day. Obviously, hope the game against Go goes well later on today. Thank you very much for joining us, Banderas. Anything you want to say quickly before we round out the interview?
Yeah, just shout out to Ahri. That's it.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya. Great to hear, obviously, from Banderas. And it was tough, you know, that performance for Riddle. Like, as you say, as he said, after Zeri gets ahead, it becomes very tricky to actually do much in a game like this, Boxer.
Yeah, definitely. And first and foremost, I want to say respect for Banderas for even taking this interview. I know from personal experience how difficult it is to do an interview after a loss, and it's something that a lot of players are generally shying away from. But I also like the fact that he was able to recognize that, you know, there's a lot of pressure. It's a bit of a different level than we're used to playing in the NLC, but still remaining confident in his own play and in his team, and, you know, recognizing that the style didn't work for them. And that's one of the beauties of being in a group stage with best of ones, right? That you can take certain risks and try different things, and if someone doesn't work, that's fine. You can have a different strategy prepared and, you know, see what happens at that point.
Yeah, it's also one of the risks, obviously, of best of ones. You know, you get 6 games to really prove yourself, and if you just have a slight misstep like happened in the bot lane early on in this game, that can be the difference maker. Say you end up tying with SK Prime, Go at the top, you and Prime on the same scoreline, you're now 1-0 down in the head-to-head, right? You need to be able to pick up either the next game against them or be able to pick up a win versus Go later on to have a shot of making it through to our best of 5s. But the group seems like it's going to be pretty evenly matched, I've got to say. I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch Group B develop.
Oh, definitely. And I'm very excited to see what SK Gaming in particular has to offer when we see them again, because they've shown us very, very different performances today, kicking off the day with a loss now. Amazing performance coming out here versus Riddle, and yeah, just excited to see what's next, really. Like, who really knows? I feel like all games in EMEA Masters are pretty close. Anything can happen, of course, partly due to the skill level being similar for most teams, but also because it's best of ones, and that makes it really exciting.
It really does. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes, though, with our next game of the day. I think we're watching Anorthosis Famagusta play up against SK Prime, actually, next up. So, going to be a very interesting one. I'm sure we'll be back right after this.